I'm not an hour early. I'm right on time, right? It's 11. It's not 10. Oh, wait. The spring forward.
Wait, no.
Hello, everybody. How are you? How is everyone? I'm doing well. Yeah, today we all lost an hour because of daylight savings. So there was a time change. So everyone that's confused by this, I apologize. Everyone that's not, good for you. I happened to my phone did it by itself, so that saved me. Everyone that checked out the blooper reel, good stuff. Good stuff. I hope you guys. It was a lot of fun. Confused. Why are people confused? What's going on? Alright, so before we start, I do want to say that unfortunately for me today's going to have to be a shorter live. I don't know if you guys know, but one of my best friends, Jade, is nominated for this Academy Award in Canada, and I got invited to go with him, so I have to go give him a lot of support. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's a really cool, talented actor. You should go check out his show, and be ready to support him today. It's called That's My DJ. It's on YouTube. I will be with Jade tonight in my suit. It's going to be very nice. I'm very excited. So we can't have too long of a live today. It's going to be about 30 minutes, half as long. I hope that's okay. But we read a lot of fun stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. So we will talk about that. I also want to show one thing, if that's cool. Jade and I did a project yesterday. We put up my guitars on the wall. So I just want to show you. Check it out. Put my guitars up on the wall. And then I'm going to get another one. Put it right there. What do you guys think? Oh, thank you guys. Thank you. I was going to ask you guys a question. What did you guys think of the blooper reel? They sent it to me a few days ago to check in. And I was actually very happy with it. I thought it was pretty funny, and then there are moments that you're like, I forget that happens. It's like one of the things that I think is really cool about blooper reels is you get led into the world that creates the world that we all watch. You know, you get the literally the behind the scenes. You get to see the family life that we have, I guess, because we're there all the time. I haven't seen it yet because I woke up and just read and got ready for this, but good stuff. Yeah, and if not, you can watch it right after the live. That's a very good plan. Katrin Mosher. All right. So let's get down to business. Let's talk about the book. Alright, so I'm going to look through it chapter by chapter because that might help me. Because I feel like this is also just another bunch of information. And I did audiobook some of this, so some of it I know is not 100% in my mind. I've told you, how has everyone been, how has everyone been with the book so far? Because now we've been reading it for a little longer. We've had a little more time to get into the style of this book. So how is everyone feeling with that? About Catch-22, I think... He did talk about Palermo, yes. I think Milo's maybe the most normal person, but sometimes he just goes crazy. We'll talk about Milo, because there are some things I have wrong with Milo, but I understand his logic, but I think it's tied into the logic of this book, which is not very logical. So we'll talk about that. This book is weird. I never catch up with you guys. I read 22 chapters. Yo, Tukibuzra, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. The book is weird. Take your time. Keep reading. You'll catch up when you can. Just talk and give points when you can. Dreidel's chapter was very interesting. Can you expand on that? What did you find interesting about it? What was shocking? What was cool? Give me a few more details. Milo, the king of the world. Um, Milo had become my favorite character because of everything that he was able to do. Bringing up the prices of eggs and like pretty much using his status as like this mess hall guy to really not only keep himself alive during the war. Don't forget that was one big motivation for him, is to stay alive and not have to go into combat. Two, making the most of it, making deals, and then getting to the point past that. It's crazy. Okay, still some question marks in your head, but it's getting better. Cool, Rita, cool. Oh, Lorena, I'm sorry that uni's taken up your life, but it's okay, you'll get it back, I promise. I knew I didn't trust Milo after this section. I am shocked at his lack of integrity for all the money. Bombed his own squadron for the crack. Yes, Kenzie Courtney for the win. How messed up was that? I thought, but I think this is one of those things where it talks about the corruption of war. Milo was in it. Everyone's supposed to be in it for the good times, right? For the right reasons. And then Milo seems like he is. You get on his side, and then he does something like that. That people still somehow he's still allowed to operate in the base and still be there, but he bombed his own squadron in a German contract. Essentially, he was like working for the enemy. He was a Nazi for a bit. So that, I agree with you, Kenzie Courtney. That was some messed up stuff. We still like Yossarian. I'm glad we still like Yossarian. Not as much of him. There was a lot of talk about him in one specific chapter, but we kind of pulled away from Yossarian. We got to see more of the chaplain. We got to see more of Dreidel and Cathcart and Nately, who I actually really liked Nately. There's that one good Nately quote, couple Nately quotes in there. Still confusing, I like it more now. I like that. Sarah Lego, I didn't read this, it's so hard to read, I'm not into it. I'm sorry, I'll read the next one. Oh, we lost another one. So, this book seems to be a pretty, dividing book. We have some people that are liking it and enjoying it and staying with some people that aren't. That's interesting. Just something to note. I will agree with you guys, this is a hard book. I'm having trouble getting through it as well. But we're doing it together. I think this is a book that will be much better read the second time. But we'll worry about that later. Milo's your hero. Milo, I don't know. I got the Spark Notes for Catch 22, full character list. So helpful, I bet it is. Milo's integrity is questionable, I agree. Okay, Camille, let's have this discussion about Milo with Kenzie Courtney, because you're arguing that Kenzie Courtney's right, that Milo's, but it's sketchy, but he's thinking everything through. I think he's pretty smart. I think he's being an opportunist. There's opportunities that are coming to him that he's taking, and you see that as the mayor of Malta, I think. The mayor of Malta and getting egg prices and selling scotch out of Sicily. Crazy. Amazing the way he's doing it, how he's using the government to like raise prices, and it's really, he's essentially starting his own economy. So he is an extremely smart person. But I don't know. To me there was just no sense of wrong, like right and wrong in that war was, because that's the whole point of the book, is that well, there is right and wrong in what we're taught, like in it. It's all, everyone's trying to do their own thing. I find Milo's actions worse than Yossarian's. Yossarian does what he does for survival, but Milo does it only for money. He bombed his own squadron for the cash. Exactly. It's even more selfish. Milo's thinking is weirdly interesting, but it's messed up how he used both sides to his own benefit for his greed. But doesn't that remind us of someone? Wasn't the old man... He reminds me of a Sealy. Milo's like a Sealy. Like a Sealy knight, you know? Always on the winning side. I kind of think the chaplain is Yossarian's nemesis. Oh no, I felt so bad for the chaplain. I feel so bad for him. I think he's like literally just a good man, and he's in a very difficult position. I mean, he is just a businessman, but I think integrity surpasses any sort of business intellect or business right. Like, I think who you are and what you do is much better about, like, your prowess on getting money. And I don't know, there are people in our world like that right now that I think are maybe good businessmen, but not very good people. Guys, don't give up. Don't give up. I haven't given up, so you shouldn't give up. I still have to read this book. So please stay with me. It does, and I read Milo was supposed to resent capitalism in the novel, but I just can't agree with him for directly hurting everyone just for some cash. Also, I don't think anyone has a share. Well, if you notice, he never really specifies a share of what. He says, everyone gets a share. Everyone has a share. Of what? Everyone has a share of what? The profit? The stuff they're selling? I think it's all just to help Milo. I don't... about Gaia. This book is like war. We keep losing people. I was thinking about one thing. We still don't have a chapter named after Yossarian. I wrote the name of the chapter down, but no Yossarian for now, though he seems to be everywhere. Good morning, Mother. I'm glad you're joining the live today. Yossarian seems to be everywhere. I think, well, he's still our protagonist in this novel. So he is going to be everywhere. But I feel like when the chapter's named after someone, it goes into like the life of that person, what they're presently going through. It's almost like, imagine if this book were a TV show and every chapter was a new episode based on that one character. That's what it feels like to me. Like when it's like Dreidel and then the whole thing, or let's do Milo. When it's like Milo's and you go through Milo's whole story, what he's currently dealing with, things he's gone through, things he's done. So this book just feels like a giant TV show, which each chapter is like a character. Does that work? Page 216 in Dreidl's chapter. What are we talking about there? What are we talking about? Wait, what about Dreidel, page 216 in Dreidl's chapter? About the nurse? I thought that part was funny. Milo's supposed to represent capitalism, and he does that well. Does anyone else think the only person really with a share is Milo himself? Where is the profit? You know, Kenzie, I think that's a very brilliant thing to bring up. Thank you so much. Milo's supposed to represent capitalism, and you see how it's working for everyone until it's not working for people, until it only benefits Milo or the other side. But because it's still capitalism, and capitalism has that one goal of just getting more profit. Capitalism, that makes sense to me. That's fascinating. I'm going to read more into that. I've read this book 3 times, and each time I dislike a different character. It's like gaining a different perspective. That's fascinating. Wait, so Anya Lily, who was your? Which character did you just like the first time, the second time, and the third time? How did that go? Milo has the best quotes. I agree. I don't understand why Yossarian blames Milo for the dead man in his tent. I missed that part. Well, the dead man in his tent was the guy that got there that was going to live with Yossarian and Or, right? He was going to live there, and then he was like, which way do we go to that tent? And then he was like, go to this tent, but he sent him to the wrong tent, so that man went up in the air, and was killed on his first flight. He wasn't even there long enough to get registered. He was long enough to die. That's like the joke. So there's like a dead man in your science tent because all this stuff is there, and it's on a cot, but no one's touched it, no one's moved it. It's just there. Because remember, they reported that he didn't even show up. So you're right, I literally have no idea how Milo... Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Opportunist. He thinks his system through, but doing it and playing on both sides is absolutely not right. Well, I mean, let's look at other modern day analogies for people like that who thinks their system through and does it, but then plays both sides to utilize and to gain the most for themselves. There's a lot of real world people like that we could definitely pay attention to. About Gaia, that's a very good point. I think every character in this book isn't either totally good or bad. It's something that I appreciate, to be honest. I think one of the things this book is bringing to light is how in war you live your truth. And I think that's why the chapters are all separated by character. That's why I don't think you have one called, like, The Day on the Beach, where there's an event that they all share. No, each chapter is an individual character, because it's saying, like, they are having separate experiences of truth, of what they're going through, of their own integrity, of what they're doing for the betterment of the world or whatever. This whole thing, it's all individual and it's all on their own. There's no unifying premise other than the fact that they're all still at the same base, on the same side of the war, fighting the same enemy, hoping to get home and have the war over. Alright, I got behind in comments. I'm going to catch up now, guys. I'm sorry if I missed all these ones. Oh my gosh. Does the chaplain really have a wife, or was he like imagining his wife like he'd like to have? Like he feels so lonely, he's imagining that someone's waiting for him to come home. I think he really has a wife and family, and I think he does love them very much. I think the chaplain's actually one of the better people that we have in this book. And what's tearing him down is his own insecurity and his own lack of place. Because he's the chaplain. He's the guy people have to talk to, where, although technically people outrank him, he's the chaplain. He's like, he's got a, what's the word? Religion on his side. So, the characters are human. Humans have flaws. Yes, they do. Each chapter shows the character's point of view. What months are we supposed to be reading Lord of the Flies? That would probably be March, April, May-ish. Late April, May. Can we please read the quote on page 274? It's about the meaning of country. I think that's the most accurate thing I've ever read. Alright. Alright. Page 274. I'm getting behind in comments, so just keep up, guys. Sorry, I'm going to try to keep up. $247. Sorry, I read that wrong. Not 274. All right, ready? Here we go. Nately was appalled and bewildered by the abominable old man's inability to perceive the enormity of his offense. "Don't you realize what you've done?" he scolded vehemently. "Major de Coverley is a noble and wonderful person, and everyone admires him. He's a silly old fool who really has no right acting like a silly young fool. Where is he today? Dead?" Nately answered softly with a somber awe. "Nobody knows. He seems to have disappeared. You see? Imagine a man his age risking what little life he has left for something so absurd as his country. Nately was instantly up in arms again. There is nothing so absurd about risking your life for your country, he declared. Isn't there? Asked the old man. What is a country? A country is a piece of land surrounded on all sides by boundaries, usually unnatural. Englishmen are dying for England, Americans are dying for America, Germans are dying for Germans, Russians are dying for Russia. There are now 50 or 60 countries fighting in this war. Surely, so many countries can't all be worth dying for. Anything worth living for, said Nately, is worth dying for. And anything worth dying for, answered the sacrilegious old man, is certainly worth living for. You know, you're such a pure and naive young man that I almost feel sorry for you. How old are you, 25, 26? 19, said Nately. I'll be 20 in January, if you live. The old man shook his head, wearing, for a moment, the same touchy, meditating frown of the fretful and disapproving old woman. They're going to kill you if you don't watch out, and I can see now that you are not going to watch out. Why don't you use some sense and try to be more like me? You might live to be 107 too. Because it's better to die on one's feet than live on one's knee, Nately retorted with triumphant and lofty conviction. I guess you've heard that saying before. Yes, I certainly have, mused the treacherous old man, smiling again. But I'm afraid you have it backward. It is better to live on one's feet than die on one's knees. That's the way the saying goes. Are you sure? Nately asked with sober confusion. It seems to make more sense my way. I love that page. Anything worth living for is worth dying for, and anything worth dying for is worth living for. That's another catch-22. And I think one of the things that a lot of these catch-22s are making me realize are how much of this book are bringing out the things that are talked in the propagandized war idea. Like when they're like, war propaganda for America. A lot of it is being like, look at these things, like, look, your country, it's worth dying for. Wasn't it worth living for as well? But then it brings me back to that famous quote by that general. That was, your job as a soldier isn't to die for your country, it's to make some other poor bastard die for his. Interesting, right? How much time do we have left? I know I said I need to leave early. We have about 10, 15 minutes. You never get to participate in these lives. Well, welcome the city of Malik Bainwood. Oh God, I'm really behind in the questions again, so I'm going to scroll up. I'm sorry, I'm skipping a bunch. Oh my gosh. 10 minutes, thank you guys. Alright, since we have about 10, 15 minutes, let's talk quotes. What were your favorite quotes? Hi, Simply Shaz, happy birthday. Please read an audio. I've always wanted to read audiobooks, so I don't know. Someone else has to figure that out for me. I've asked. Someone has to give me a book. You know, there's a parallel I see here between Nately and Clevenger, which makes me feel like Nately might die soon. Nately and Clevenger, you know, Clevenger was also very noble. He was like, "You're sorry, what are you talking about? These boys are entitled." Okay, bye, Stella. These boys are entitled to our air support. Like, what are you doing? And then Yossarian's like, no. So I feel like Nately and Yossarian both have a similar vibe to me. Not Nately and Yossarian, Nately and Clevenger, who, you know, we don't know how he died. The real trick lies in losing wars and knowing which wars can be lost. The quote about the chaplain in chapter 25. I will read that one to you guys really quickly. Which quote about the chaplain in chapter 25? It's like a 16-page chapter. Also, like, what do you guys feel about this chaplain questioning his religion so much, being like, is this all real? What the hell is this? And I think that's something that the war is doing, but I think that's interesting. What do you guys think about that? It's the tree of life and knowledge of good and evil. The frog is almost 500 years old. Could you really say with that much certainty that America, with all its strength, prosperity, with its fighting man that is second to none, and with... I like the chaplain. I think the chaplain is the most... I like the chaplain a lot. He's one of my favorite characters, too. I feel bad for him. I think tragedy is a natural catalyst to questioning belief. I would say solidifying belief, because it makes you question things, but then it makes you say, no, this is what I really believe. The war is doing what it does best, making them question everything around them. For the chaplain, this means questioning his faith, because that's what he's held on to. That's his anchor. He should not be human if he did not question his faith. I completely agree with you. Yeah, that's a whole other religious talk, though. In a democracy, the government is the people, Milo explained. We are the people, aren't we? We might as well just keep the money middle in. Frankly, I'd like to see the government get out. Because it's better to die on your feet than live on one's knees, Nately retorted. That one's a good one. Be glad you're even alive. Be furious you're gonna die. I loved that quote. But a normal, lonely adult. Oh, and that was so sad. I imagine him, like, eating alone. Oh, and how creepy was that guy that the chaplain ran into that lived in the woods because he was afraid of getting his throat cut? Yo, Rita. Same time. Thank you, about 5 minutes. 2:59 about the government. Let's look. In a democracy, Milo explained. In a democracy, the government is the people, Milo explained. We're people, aren't we? So we might just as well keep the money and eliminate the middleman. Frankly, I'd love to see the government get out of war altogether and leave the whole field to private industry. If we pay the government everything we owe it, we'll only be encouraging government control and discouraging other individuals from bombing their own men in planes. We'll be taking away their incentive. Milo was correct, of course, as everyone soon agreed, but a few embittered misfits like Dr. Nika, who sulked cantankerously and muttered offensive insinuations about the morality of the whole venture until Milo mollified him with a donation in the name of the syndicate of a lightweight aluminum collapsible garden chair that Dr. Nika could fold up conveniently and carry outside his tent each time Chief White Half-Oat came inside his tent and carried back inside his tent each time. Oh my gosh. Sorry, that was not a good reading. Howdy! Alright. You know, that might be the answer. Attack boastfully about something we ought to be ashamed of. That's a trick that never seems to fail. How funny is that? How Yossarian gets the medal because they don't want to get in trouble for it. This book is very interesting to me. The amount of things they put themselves through to pass things rather than just admit offense and be like, this is where I messed up here. But then again, in the market that's very like success driven and not learning driven. Alright, guys. So, I'm sorry we had to cut this one short today. Let's talk about what we're reading to for next week. Let's see, it was 286 that it ended? 286, so... All right. Ready? We're going to read from 26 through 31. So page 344. I was thinking, Camille, going to 34, but I was like, you know what? People are having trouble with this book. I don't mind if we take it smaller chunks at a time and really get to dive into those chunks. You know, we're almost done, actually. 453, we're already going to be on 354, and we have 100 pages left. We can decide later. Flume being more fearful of his roommate than war is low-key relatable, though. Yo, for real, though. Think this book will stop being sexist in the next reading? All right, well, Carolyn Chang, I think you need to realize the time that this book was written. It was written in the late 1950s, a completely different world than the world we live in today. A world where things like sexism and things that we're discovering with our generation were wrong and swept under the rug. We're not seen in the same light. So while we can be upset that the past was like this, we also must be able to look at it with an objective view and be like, that was the past. One of the reasons why we're so happy to move forward is because we can recognize the faults of our past while saying this is where we can do better in the future. So I understand your concern with it, but at the same time, we have to be aware of the time and place that this book was written and why it's in this book. There's nothing we can do to change that. All we can do is look at it and say, all right, this is not the world we're going to live in. Books like this aren't going to be read. Aren't going to be written now, like with this type of things in them. Sexism is still around today. It is. And that's one thing that our generation is very much working towards eliminating. Not all books of this period were so sexist, though. Slaughterhouse was never as bad. No, I think I agree with you. Slaughterhouse was not this bad. But it's interesting to me. What do you mean war is already sexist? It's interesting to me that a lot of the time World War II shows these men when they're overseas and whatnot doing these things that are very questionable. Whether because of war or sexually or whatever. I mean, even the way they talk about but that's the thing, like, one of the things, okay, oh God, this is an awesome point. All right, so remember how in the chaplain's chapter, he goes into being like, why don't people see me as a person? They see me as what it is in the war, because the war doesn't even, it's almost like a separate reality they're living in, where things aren't real, things aren't fake, death is real, all these other things are real. It's like heightened circumstances and whatnot. So even the way they talk about each other, the chaplain feeling that his other soldiers don't see him as a real person, the way that they speak of these women that they're meeting at these towns that they free, they kind of, there's an extreme loss of humanity that comes with war. And I think one of the ways that this book highlights that is the poor manner in which they speak of people, particularly prostitutes, women, and something else. Atonement is a great World War II book movie that shows a female perspective. Cool. What do you mean someone was taking on your account at Twitter? Someone was taking my account on Twitter? What do you mean? Taking on your account on Twitter. What do you mean? Someone go my account? Oh, I never said there weren't women in the war. I'm just talking about this perspective. There were a lot of women in the war. I mean, World War II was just a massive effort by the world. It was a lot of women in the war, French resistance, women doing things at home. That was one of the big things in the American economy, was getting women to work because all the men were gone. It was a huge forward, and that was one of the biggest movements forward into people being like, no, we should be doing things. Oh, okay. Thank you, Rita. That confused the hell out of me. I was like, what? What? All right. Rosende reads on Twitter as a fan account. Someone was talking about taking it over, but I have to go. So we will read to chapter 32 up to the point Yo-Yo's roomies. We'll read up to that point. Up to that point, we'll discuss. I will take pictures tonight. We had a stunt rehearsal in this really cool location the other day that I got to take a lot of pictures of. So maybe I'll post some of those. Thank you again for an awesome discussion, guys. Fascinating what we get to talk about, right? I should have a lot of fun with you guys. So we will talk next week. Sorry it had to be short. Everyone, I don't know if you can, but if you can, go vote for Jade. This is the final countdown. Also, I want you guys to really quickly meet my new baby. It's my new baby. Very pretty. All right, guys, I will see you later. Have a fun weekend. Call your parents, tell them you love them. If you haven't, I'm going to do that later. Keep being forces of positive change in the world. Keep questioning things. Keep discovering. Keep searching, and keep being awesome. Have a good day, guys. I'll see you later. Until next time.